Hello there. Welcome back to the Evolution of the Soul with Cheryl Arts from Willow Roots. And I'm grateful that you're here today. I'm going to talk about coming out of the spiritual closet. And I know for me, there's been a progression of how much I've shared or who I share with, or being authentically me and who I've become because I'm such a different person than I was 10 years ago. And some people hold you in that place, right? They hold you in that place of who they knew you were. Either it was like back in high school or 20 years ago, or maybe as a child. And so we're just going to talk about some energy around and some emotions that we may have, or some things that may be holding us back from really stepping into our intuitive gifts, our spiritual connections. Maybe it's a passion that we're really wanting to do, but struggling with it because of, social norms or what people say or just how we feel. And so I just want to talk about that, especially right now, because there is a mass awakening happening. And I know I was part of it. Mine happened 2016, 2017. I mean, I'm still awakening. There's a process to that. But more and more people are awakening, or I would say remembering their gifts. It's kind of been hidden from us. We haven't been taught that sixth sense, that intuitive sense, to use our third eye, to use our gut instincts. It's talked about a little bit, but it's really been pushed away from us. And so now the time there's no more pushing it away. It's coming to fruition. And I think people might need a little bit of support on the way. I know I could have used some support. I know I looked through all the masters that offered any help I could get as I was navigating this space. And I think there's still levels to how much you come out to the world, and whether that's spiritually or with anything, something that's really deep within our hearts that we want to share. Maybe that's a book that you want to write, or the poems or the paintings that you do, or songs that you write, or things that are really deeply held that you really love, but are unsure of how they will be received. And so I just want to talk about that. I know in the spiritual world, many of us as children had so many gifts, or maybe had inklings of it. I know I sensed, energy in my bedroom when I'd sleep at night, scream for my parents, and they'd come in and they'd look in my closet under my bed. And there's like nothing there. Now, what I know is there likely was an energy present, but they couldn't sense it, they couldn't see it. And so we bury that. Some of us who see those departed loved ones, we kind of bury that because we're told it's weird, or that's ridiculous, or you're making things up, it's your imagination. And so we stuff it down because it's not quote, quote, normal. Right. And, I love seeing parents now that are raising conscious children and supporting their intuition and how they sense the world, from a real, beautiful, innocent perspective. And so I love that they're encouraging their children. And I think more and more generations will do that, so that it'll just be innate and it will continue to flow as they grow up. And so some of you may be struggling too with religion. I hear people that come in that really have this, it's such a paradox from what they've been taught. And, some people have been taught that, tarot is evil and this is bad, and don't go see a medium, and different things like that, even though it's innate within us. So there's some confusion that starts to happen because there's this programming from certain religious sectors that do this. There's some really beautiful things that religions do, but they also create fear and control. And so one of the biggest examples around religion is what happened to Jesus. And whether you believe Jesus was a real person or not, I believe he was there was definitely a consciousness. I would love to believe that he walked this earth because his teachings are beautiful, and he was a teacher and he was a healer. Yet he was prosecuted for that he was hung up on the cross for what he did, and he did some really beautiful things, but you know, it didn't sit well with the rulers of the land at that time, and he was gaining popularity, and it wasn't appreciated. And so, that's kind of like the biggest example that's held over our heads in terms of, this space. And so, one of the other big things I see from the clients that come in and really sense it, they don't label it as this, but it's really fear of rejection. Because at the heart of everything, and I know I have suffered from this, is that we want to be loved. We want to be liked. We don't like people who don't like us. It's just, it doesn't feel well, or it doesn't feel lovely, right? Of course, right? And so as we step into this new space, will people still love me? Will they still like me? Will they stop being my friend because I speak to dead people, or I'm doing tarot cards or numerology, or I'm doing energy healing? So there's, definite fear of rejection, which is really unfortunate. I think, working through fears, there's a lot of fear that's put on us in the environments that we are, and it's done through social media, it's done through the television, through TV programming, through the news, through so many different things is fear, and it's just perpetuated. And so on a level itself, so we need to heal that fear. And so finding a way that will help you heal that fear. I know I've done many different activities, different self-help pieces to help me through that. There's a lot of shamanic journeying that I've done to help release that fear, and that definitely is very, very effective. So fear is a big piece. People who are really analytical struggle with coming out as well, because they're trying to wrap their brains around it, because it has to make sense to that left side of the brain, that one that needs to know how everything happens. So that might be another piece that you're working on. And it's a real struggle. I've seen certain people that were in the medical industry, nurses and different people like that really struggled with trying to make the energetics make sense and the intuitiveness make sense. And, and it's really beautiful to see their journey as they move through it. And it's almost seeing is believing, or experiencing is believing. Another big piece that may hold people back from coming out into their gifts and into the world is that they may have had past lives where they were persecuted. And so I've seen this a lot in some of my healing sessions, where people were accused of being witches, or doing sorcery, or heretics, or what have you, and were burned at the stake, or different things happened to them that could have been just for going to the woods, collecting natural medicine, natural herbs and medicine, and trying to heal your family, and then being hauled in, right? And so there's this energy that's still within us, that's held lifetime after lifetime, that our body remembers, that hasn't been cleared yet. So there may be some healing that needs to be um, you need to maybe explore some healing from a past life perspective, right? And something that's deep within our cellular memory that we've carried forward. So something to explore there. Definitely worked on many different individuals, helping them in that space. And so, I mean, it's unfortunate, but that was kind of, there was an era of time where it wasn't safe to be who you are. And, we're moving into a space where it is safe, but, the body and the mind and the soul remembers times, right? So we have to get into a place where it feels safe again to be who we truly are, to bring forth our intuitive gifts, and not feel like we will get persecuted. So we are in the safer space. It's only going to get safer. You're going to find more and more people that will understand you. So those of you who awakened 20, 30 years ago, it was really difficult because there was less and less people. But more and more people are waking up today. So it's really powerful. And it's a safer environment to really truly bring out our gifts and remember our gifts and bring them forward. Another piece might be that, family members or close friends have ridiculed people for being woo-woo, or whatever words they want to use. And, that's really unfortunate. That's something that you will have to work through. And And don't take it personally. Maybe they'll stop when you actually tell them what you are doing. Oftentimes, they're unaware, unconscious of what they're actually saying and who they are hurting when they say these things. And so maybe just, gently confronting them about that, and maybe offering them some of the pieces that come in for you, and sharing that too, because it's not in their paradigm. They don't understand it, or at least not yet. Another piece is that we may have ancestors. So I think, looking back at my family, there was a lot of alcoholism in both sides of my family growing up. And I think now, my family was way more intuitive and connected than they were allowed to share because it wasn't as safe. And alcohol helped numb things. It helped numb what you felt or what you sensed, or just, helping you take you out of that space. And so, now I'm looking back now and seeing some of their gifts, even though I didn't know all of them very well. Energetically, I sensed that they were way more powerful and way more intuitive, and than they were allowed to be. And so I'll just share a little bit about my progression coming out. And I was really grateful, because this isn't always the case, but my husband was really supportive. And same with my family. My family, I have three children, and they were pretty young when I started this work. So it was about 10 years ago. So 7-year-old, 8-year-old, and 11-year-old. And so they actually let me work on them a little bit. And so it felt safe within my home space to do it. But I do know women, I particularly work a lot with women whose husbands just really don't understand, and don't bring that into my house, or there's different things there. So there's some layers that they have to work through, if that's something that and if you're experiencing that, if this is something that's you're really passionate about, you're going to have to work that through with your partner. So I was really grateful that I had a safe space there to move through. And when I offered healing sessions, so I started my work really by offering alchemical healing sessions. And I was grateful because I was offering them for free because I was learning. And I was grateful for many friends and acquaintances were very open to this work. And it was interesting because I would start to see that some of them were actually without, I'd never known this before, but in that space of that healing room, realizing how powerful, intuitive, maybe mediums that they were, that the gifts that they had, but they didn't express it outside of, just themselves. It was really powerful to see. So, I started working in that way. And then I think, the biggest test of really putting yourself out there is, social media, I guess, in this day and age and era. And for a number of years, I had two accounts. I had a Cheryl Arts account where it was family and, different things like that I would post. And I had a Willow Roots account. I didn't really have that many people on it. And it was a few years ago, probably 3 years ago, or maybe 4, I started to use my Cheryl Arts account, because my Cheryl Arts account is my friends. They are my family. Whereas Willow Roots are the people that are in this world, right? So that felt safe. So that's where I started. I started posting what I was offering just on my Willow Roots. And then it was like, no, it's time to post on your named Facebook account. And I'll just give you a business tip. If you're in a business world like this, it gets way more traction because, anyways, the algorithms and all that other stuff, your business, they want you to pay. They don't want to do stuff for free. So I actually got way more traction on my Cheryl Arts account, which is really cool. So coming out in that way, posting stuff on there, with the first couple months when I did it, I was like, oh, that feeling in your stomach, but I hit send. I did it anyways. I knew I would lose followers. That's okay. Or people just wouldn't like my stuff. That's okay. That doesn't resonate with them. I know there's people there, but there's going to be the people that do, and that need your work. They need your advice. They need your wisdom and gifts. So that for me, that was that step. And then a couple years after that, I was like, no, you really need to post. Like, you need to post daily. You need to get out there and really share and reach people. And so that was another leap. I think that was 2.5 years ago. So I started posting daily, and it could be just like different sayings and different things like that, but really, really starting to put myself out there. And so, and then just recently, this piece here, where you're listening to me, this is just recent, just in the last 2 weeks, that I got the call to start doing videos. So really putting like my face out here, my voice out here, and just trusting that my message will be heard by the right people at the right time, and not worrying about the other side of things. If you like it, it resonates, great. Share it with others. If you don't, great. Thank you. I don't need to hear terrible things. So, so this was a big, big step for me. And so it can be just baby steps as you come out into this place, into the world that you want to share in. And so, and for me, that continues to grow. So I've co-authored a chapter in a book, and I'm now taking people to Egypt. So I'm really stepping out there, putting myself out there, trusting that the universe will support. And I'll say to you that when you step into your authentic self and you trust the wisdom and the intuition that you get, things are going to track for you. Things are going to line up. The universe has your back. They will support you. And so, sure, maybe some people will step away, but more and more people who are in alignment with you will step forward. And when you are your authentic self, it feels better. It takes less energy to be who you're not. Right? So if you go to a party and try to blend in and talk about what they're talking about, but not what you really want to talk about, it's exhausting. It's stepping into those two worlds. I know I've done it for years. My spiritual world. So I'm here in my healing space. When I do retreats or healing circles or healing, I am one particular person. And for the longest time, when I would step out, I would be a different person. I would be the old Cheryl when I would go to my family. And to some level, I kind of step back into that. But more and more and more, I am just authentically me. I am who I am in my healing space all the time, 24/7, or I try to be. And I encourage you to do that. But if it doesn't feel safe to start, then step in and out of the other world. And, you're going to realize at a certain point, it starts to get more and more exhausting, not being who you are, stepping into a world, pretending to be someone who you're not. Right. And this goes for anything. I think about one of my family members. I think about people who are gay, who are my age, and, those around them know, but they haven't stepped forward. And I just, my heart goes out to them. There's a lot of love and compassion that goes out to them, that they don't feel safe to do that. And I think if they did, things would shift dramatically. Their health would improve mentally, physically, and their life would just change for the better. I think, we're in a space where it's safer to do that. So one of the things too, I would say, is when anyone has comments, whether it's on Facebook or to your face, or you get a sense, just please don't take it personally. And this goes for everything in life. Do not take it personally. They're dealing with their own things. They're dealing with their own paradigm, their own kind of world and universe. And what you do and offer is outside of that. And they don't understand it. And that's okay, unless they want to understand it. But that's, we don't want to get trapped in what they're thinking, and allowing them and their energy to affect us. So if somebody doesn't want to come see you, you offer your healing service, they're like, oh, no, thank you. Don't take it personally. It doesn't resonate with them, or at least not yet. It doesn't resonate with them maybe in a year or two. I've had people I had conversation with 5 years ago, and now they're coming to me and saying, we had that conversation. It really resonated with me. I think I'd like to try your healing sessions, right? So just don't take things personally. It has nothing to do with you. And it really could challenge your paradigm, right? One of the paradigms I'm working through is what we were taught. We had to work 9 to 5, work hard, 9 to 5. I mean, I work very hard. I don't work 9 to 5. I work a different way. I work more in flow. I see my first client at 11, but I am working, but in a different way. And so I'm trying to break away from that paradigm, and that's happening in steps as well. And I'll talk about that at some other point. But you're challenging their paradigm when you say, yeah, that you are spirit in a human body. That might trigger them because they'd never heard that, and it shakes their world a little bit. So just be aware of that. One of the advice I can give you is when you're in this space and you're a little nervous about coming out, try to find your soul tribe, your people who can relate so you can have conversations about this, your soul family. So I know for me, I would attend healing circles. So my teacher had healing circles once a month. That was a great way to connect to people like me, have conversations, compare stories and share, our challenges and our wins and different things like that in this particular world. And so I still offer healing circles. I offer them once a month. They're both online and in person. You can find that on my website under events. But I would encourage you to find people who are like you, who appreciate, the world that we're in, this healing world, this intuitive world, this connected spiritual world. And also just, invite in what you need to feel safe. So maybe that's a bit of protection. Maybe that is, again, your tribe can help you there. Whatever you need to feel safe. So maybe there's a little bit of healing that has to happen. Like I mentioned, maybe it's past lives or something, some trauma that happened in this life. Maybe as a child when you were told, this is ridiculous. You can't see ghosts. Like you're not talking to those people. The fairies aren't real. Like, being told those things. So maybe there's some healing that needs to happen, but really invite in what's needed for you to feel safe. And, offering yourself some love and compassion. Oh, so important all the time, no matter what. But, love and compassion in this space as you step forward. And yeah, and again, just being authentically you, so important all the time in any kind of realm, but definitely in this space of spirituality. And again, you may lose some people, but I believe you'll gain so much more. And the people that you'll want to be around will be attracted to you. So the more that you are authentically you, the more you are your light, the more you shine, it's going to be like a beacon, and you're going to bring in those that need to hear your message or be in your space or connect with you in whatever way that is. And so that's my kind of message there. And hopefully, it gets easier. I know I've been challenged with, family members who have told me that what I do is weird and it's voodoo and different things like that. That's more in just that I kind of laugh about that. And, when I first started hearing, it's weird what you do. And, but I have come to know that, that again, I'm not taking it personally, although it did kind of, when I first heard that, it really did feel like a stab in the heart. I'd love for my family, my extended family, my parents, my brothers, their families to support me, but that is just not the case. And so they don't, say terrible things about me, at least not to my face, but, I don't have all of that support. And that's okay because I know it just does not resonate with them, or at least not at that time. And so I don't take it personally, but, it has taken some healing around that and some forgiveness and just working through that. And I think for me, I have this knowing that, my parents, they love me, they support me, they are, very happy for me. They just don't get what I do, and that's okay. But I think, when they cross over, and hopefully that's many, many years from now, that they will get me. And they'll be my biggest supporter from the other side. And so I know that to be true because, they're part of my spiritual family. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me. And again, just be authentically you. Hopefully this was helpful, and we'll see you soon.